Welcome to Mission Evolution Radio Show with Gwilda Wiyaka, bringing together today's leading experts to uncover ever-deepening spiritual truths and the latest scientific developments in support of the evolution of humankind. For more information on Mission Evolution Radio with Gwilda Wiyaka, visit www.missionevolution.org. And now, here's the host of Mission Evolution, Miss Gwilda Wiyaka.
There is no doubt we're on a wild ride with no end in sight. What's going on? What's causing the rapid shifts and changes we're all experiencing? Mission Evolution Radio TV show is coming to you around the world on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, xzbn.net. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka, the host of Mission Evolution Radio TV, and I'm also the founder and director of State Certified Occupational School, Home Shamanic Arts School. This hour, I'll put on both hats and be your guide as we explore the shifting ages and the evolution of consciousness. If you want to know more about Path Home School and all it has to offer, visit www.findyourpathhome.com. For Mission Evolution Radio and TV, close to 300 archived radio and TV shows, visit www.missionevolution.org. Realities are shifting, structures failing, and people floundering. What is going on? Everything expresses according to frequency, and the ambient frequency on the planet is rapidly rising or becoming more expansive, depending on how you want to look at it. To start out, let's look at the cause of the increased frequency on the planet and how it's affecting us. Albert Einstein beautifully summed it up when he said, "Everything is energy, and that's all there is to it. Match the frequency of the reality you want, and you cannot help but get that reality. It can be no other way. This is not philosophy. This is physics." One thing we can count on, nature is never static. Though it may be cyclic, it's ever changing. With these changes come variations in the ambient frequency experienced on the planet. If indeed, as good old Albert suggests, any shifts in frequency impacts reality, this opens an entirely new world as the ambient frequency on the planet rises or falls. The amazing impact of frequency on matter was actually demonstrated by German physicist and musician Ernest Chladni. Sometimes labeled the father of acoustics, his most important work included research using vibrating plates of sand, of all things. Chladni's technique, first published in 1787 in his book Discoveries in the Theory of Sound, consisted of drawing a violin bow over a piece of metal whose surface was lightly covered with sand. The plate was bowed until it reached resonance. With a vibration, the sand formed distinct and repeating patterns. These patterns would remain present in the sand as long as the note was sustained. When the note was changed, the sand would go into chaos until another resonant note was maintained. The sand would then form another unique pattern that would also remain as long as the note was held. The patterns formed by this method are now called Chladni figures. The Chladni figure formed by each individual note can be exactly replicated each time that same note is introduced into the sand. This leaves one wondering if what he discovered was also the origin of written language, symbols actually drawn by sound, sound made visible. Regardless, sound is frequency, and should we view the medium of sand as an example of the quantum soup of life, it demonstrates how different frequencies impact the quantum level where physical manifestation originates. Which figure formed in the sand was and is totally dependent upon the note being sounded. Match the frequency of the reality you want, and you cannot help but get that reality. There are cyclic galactic events, positions, and relationships that impact the frequency of the planet. These have been shown to affect the course of human life and evolution. The ambient frequency of the Earth is impacted by its relative positioning in the larger scheme of things as it loops its way through the galaxy. Some portions of the galaxy through which the Earth cyclically passes contain more light or higher frequency than others. This variation of frequency dictates many things on the planet, including human consciousness. A shorter and more easily grasped example of frequency variations is caused by the Earth's cyclic passing is the four seasons: winter, spring, summer, and fall. These seasons occur because the Earth is tilted on its axis relative to the orbital plane that as it travels around the sun. The Earth's axis is an invisible line that runs through its center from pole to pole and around which it rotates. This axis is tilted in such a way that it revolves around the sun. Different portions of her surface face the sun more directly. In June, when the northern hemisphere is tilted towards the sun's rays hit it for a greater part of the day and in winter than in winter. This means it gets more hours of daylight. The more hours of daylight or light and exposure to the sun's rays, the more light or frequency present. In December, when the northern hemisphere is tilted away from the sun, there are fewer hours of daylight. Reducing the light and frequency results in winter. Every year without fail, we experience the four seasons. Yet every season varies from year to year, with no two being exactly the same. This holds true in the more far reaching galactic cycles, though it's more difficult to perceive, as it may take numerous lifetimes or multiple ages to shift. The intensity of light or frequency the sun radiates into the planet is dictated by its relative positioning in the galaxy and the frequency present there. As we left the last high frequency portion of the galaxy encountered on our path at the close of the Ionian Age, well over 12,000 years ago, the sun moved into a less highly charged portion of the galaxy. At that time, we entered what we will call the long dark, a polarized low frequency time. During the long dark, there was less light, resulting in reduced consciousness and awareness and less direct access to information. Humans were left with only myths and legends and ceremonies passed down from more enlightened times. During the long dark, we were limited to a dogmatic adherence to rituals. Many of us are still locked down in this dogma today. Now, as we enter the portion of the galaxy characterized by the age of Aquarius, the sun is once again moving into a higher frequency area of the galaxy. This increased bandwidth of light is bathing interplanetary space, causing a raise in frequency, supporting expanded consciousness, unity, and enlightenment. The aforementioned galactic events have been charted by many sciences during the including the Mayan calendar, developed by Mayan practitioners who were both mathematician and shaman. The Mayan calendar is a very accurate map of galactic positions and the resulting cyclic frequency shift experienced by the Earth. The calendar is also somewhat prophetic, as through it, a proficient scholar can accurately predict trends based upon the changing sets of frequencies and what they promote, which Chladni figure is the setting the stage of human events, if you will. Unfortunately, many less proficient pseudo scholars, through misinterpretation and giant leaps of illogic, have come up with increasing or inaccurate predictions, supposedly based on the Mayan calendar. An example is the prediction of the world would end on 12/21/12 rather than that general time, initiating the beginning of a new shift in frequency, marking a new era. These false alarms have eroded the perceived value of the Mayan calendar and many other valuable methods of prediction and guidance from the ancients. Each set of frequency and resulting Chladni figures offers a different configuration in which events manifest, making some more likely than others. These cyclic events are also reflected in the astrological ages and the precession of equinoxes, as studied by both ancient and modern astrologers and astronomers. Each of the 12 astrological ages and the precession of equinoxes indicates the Earth's relative positioning in the galaxy and the resulting frequency influences to be found in each configuration. Even our modern day personal horoscopes are based upon the position and frequency influences of heavenly bodies on the day, time, and location of our birth. The resulting frequency influences are embedded into our psyche, manifesting traits and tendencies that follow us throughout our lifetime. However, we choose to manage and express these traits is totally up to the individual. When reading a horoscope, well trained practitioners triangulate the information of the birth frequency with the current astrological frequency on the planet to direct their client as to what currents they can expect to manifest in their lives. Again, outcome is not predestined. How the client chooses to manage the information is their personal choice. Ultimately, one's choice impact the results. The astrological reading can only point out the raw materials at hand. Basically, the astrologer is mapping the incoming wave. Then it's up to how we choose to surf it or be swept under, as the case may be. The galactic frequency phenomenon, noted and charted by the ancients, is now being substantiated by findings of modern day scientists. And we will proceed with that little topic on the other side of a short commercial break. This is Mission Evolution, www.missionevolution.org. So, why is frequency so important? This is a special edition of Mission Evolution Radio TV, and we're discussing the phenomenon of frequency, why it's changing on the planet, and how it affects evolution. We'd gotten to the point of talking about galactic frequency phenomenon, and it was noted and charted by the ancients, and how it's now being substantiated by modern day scientists. So, as an example, Dr. Dmitriev, a Russian scientist, has observed increasing plasma on the leading edge of the sun's magnetic field. The good doctor believes this is the result of the sun's magnetic field moving into an area of the galaxy that has higher energy, is more highly charged. This increase in charge or change is causing excitation of the plasma on the leading edge of the sun's heliosphere, instigating more plasma to form and resulting in, you've got it, more higher frequency and luminosity. The energy is also flowing into the sun, causing it to emit increased frequency along its ecliptical or equilateral plane and saturating interplanetary space. Dmitriev has observed that solar emissions are traveling more quickly, charging up the energy of or frequency of the planets as their electromagnetic fields or toroidal fields interact with that of the sun. The increase in luminosity is impacting all those livings on the planet, as well as the planet itself. These times and influences have been recorded as well as prophesized by nearly every indigenous culture. Our sun cyclically passes through this high frequency portion of the galaxy, yet it's been so long since we were last here, there's no memory or practical information to go on. We have only myths, legends, prophecies, and the science of the ancients, such as shamanism, astrology, and the Mayan calendar to guide us. As Einstein pointed out, frequency dictates reality. The ambient frequency of our planet is rapidly rising, resulting in an evolution of reality. In short, all the rules are changing. We can no longer take the events of the recent past and use them to predict the future, as our future has become unprecedented. Even if we attempt to delve deeper into the history of past cycles, it was so long ago that much information has been lost, and no two cycles are exactly the same. We're still left floundering. As the Piscean age gives way to that of Aquarius, the frequency resonances are changing due to the shift in our relative positioning in the galaxy. In effect, we are at the stage in Chladni's experience when one note gives way to another and the sand goes into chaos before the next figure takes form. This is evidenced by the global turmoil we're experiencing at this time. We have the pandemic, social upheaval, mass shootings, riots, political unrest, major disruptions in supply chains, falling economies, global warming, climate change, unprecedented fires, droughts, floods, atypical weather patterns, and shrinking habitats. Clearly, the ways supported by the old configuration of frequencies are now rapidly failing. Individuals, corporations, governments are scrambling to patch it together to return to the normal, but the frequency configuration for the old normal is gone. The new one yet to form. And we now find ourselves in the chaos between the notes. With the influences of the horoscope, how we choose to respond to the frequency at hand will ultimately dictate outcome. So, how are we to find our way in this shifting landscape? If we explore how the ancient peoples found guidance for over 50,000 years, we see that they turned to their shaman and wise ones. In times of great change, through sacred sites, rituals, trance states, ceremonies, these practitioners attune themselves and their people to the frequency of the earth and the stars to maintain balance with the ever changing frequencies of the universe and the resulting reality shifts on the planet. This is proposed of many seemingly mysterious sites. There are very similar principles underlying most ancient power structures, such as Stonehenge, the pyramids, sacred mounds, medicine wheels, early cathedrals, and more. They were constructed using sacred geometry, along with the earth and stellar influences, to focus ceremonies designed to bring the people into balance with the ever changing energies of heaven and earth. While many ceremonies were performed on the solstice and equinoxes, or according to lunar cycles, Earth connection can be achieved at any time of year by engaging these rites. Let's look at the scientific principles behind Earth connection. To do so, we need to understand the toroidal field. Now, bear with me. A torus is a surface generated by a closed curve rotating around but never intersecting or containing a vertical axis in its own plane. Now, I know that's clear as mud, but there is much speculation that under the right circumstances, toroidal fields have the potential of perpetual motion. The galaxy, sun, and all the planets spin, creating an electromagnetic field around them in the form of a torus. The Earth spins on her axis and around her iron core. As she does, she creates an electromagnetic field as well. These electromagnetic fields are in the form of tori and extend well beyond the body creating them, interacting with other heavenly bodies. As above, so below. The human body also generates an electromagnetic field in the form of a torus. This occurs as the heart pumps blood or in a spiral formation. Spinning blood cells. The red blood cells contain iron, much like the Earth's core, and when they spin, they create the electromagnetic field of the human body. The human electromagnetic field enters through the crown and exits through the perineum, with the crown corresponding to the Earth's north and the perineum the south. As long as the earth spins or the human heart beats, these electromagnetic or toroidal fields are in constant motion. When the human electromagnetic field is in alignment with that of the earth, the physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual aspects of the human are supported and empowered by the earth's toroidal field and the current frequencies found therein. To the degree we're out of alignment, we create drag, resulting in wear, tear, and loss of power, much like a top losing its spin. Eventually, it falls over. Now let's look at Newton's first law. An object that is in motion will not change its velocity unless an unbalanced force acts upon it. This is known as the uniform motion. If we consider Newton's law, the advantage of aligning our toroidal fields with that of the Earth becomes glaringly obvious. To the degree that we're out of alignment, we become unbalanced. Considering the sheer mass of the Earth, it's no mystery who's going to lose that little equation. When we're in alignment with the electromagnetic field or toroidal field of the Earth, we're in cooperation with and empowered by her. Drag creates friction, and friction wears things out. To the degree we're not in alignment with the way life works, we are in effect pushing against the river. When we're in alignment, our intent is pushed by the river. This is the key behind manifestation. So, how do we work this? During lower frequency times, when shaman, magic, and for that matter, religion became more dogmatic, an important component was lost, that of embodiment. During the less expansive times, we lost sight of the fact that the rituals were in and of themselves beside the point. Ceremony was originally designed to help us align with the current frequencies on the planet. Only through conscious alignment with and responsible directing of universal power through our physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual bodies can we take advantage of the frequency at hand and affect a change at the quantum level. It's through interaction with the quantum level of life we're able to affect physical change in the material world. Ultimately, the practitioner is the tool, as universal power is accessed and channeled through their electromagnetic earth connection. Like all other tools, the practitioner must be refined and kept in shape in order to be effective. So we have to stay effective, and the only way to stay effective is stay in alignment. And the only way to stay in alignment is to have our physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual bodies clear, healed, present. At this time in history, most of us are not clear, healed, or present. And that's adding to the chaos that we're experiencing. Soon, we're going to have to find a new alignment. We can stick our head in the sand only so long, but eventually, the frequencies at hand will tear us apart if we don't align with them. So that gives us motivation, if nothing else, to get more introspective, to look and see what's really going on with us. How attached are we to something that's failing? If we cling to the things that we're attached to that are indeed falling apart, do we fall apart also? The evidence says, yes, we do. And it's being shown in the way that systems are failing, people are floundering, and things are going downhill fast. Is that evolution or devolution? Are we on the eve of destruction, or is this the dawn of creation? Believe it or not, it may very well be up to us. It's time for another one of those station breaks, but I will be back on the other side and we'll go into figuring out how to get ourselves aligned in such a way that we're not going down with the tide. This is Mission Evolution, www.missionevolution.org. What does the dark night of the soul have to do with frequency and evolution? This is Mission Evolution, missionevolution.org. We're going into the reasons and fixes for being behind the power curve as far as processing goes as the frequency rises on the planet. To the degree that a person is processed in alignment and of good intent, the power has a clear channel to move into the world, as the light is only as clear as the window through which it shines. To access this power, we need to gain and maintain a solid earth and stellar connection. This can be achieved through studying and performing the appropriate traditional ceremonies from any culture. It can also be accomplished through taking time to align with the natural world. One thing that we've done is become disconnected from the natural world en masse. One technique to realign is to step outside and greeting the dawn with a statement of intent for the day, checking in at noon to see if we're on task with our intent and making the necessary course corrections, and finally giving prayers of gratitude at sunset for what we've accomplished and achieved during the day. Another tried and true method is to go outside and perform ceremony on the solstice and equinoxes or phases of the moon. This can be as simple as studying what each supports and then compose and recite prayers or statements of intent accordingly. As long as you strictly adhere to the principles offered by nature, follow the universal rules of ceremony, and do everything in its season, you can trust your ability to become empowered through the currents of life. The increase in frequency is offering us as individuals an opportunity to evolve into our own inner knowing and authority. For this evolution to take place, we must process through personal imbalances as the increase in frequency is forcing to the surface. Sometimes this can be done on one's own. Other times, professional counseling or spiritual coaching may be needed. Bear in mind, none of us has arrived. When confronted with rapidly rising frequencies and shifting realities, we are all a work in process. As Earth moves into the ever increasing light during these times of intense transformation, the evolving currents affect us all. Much is being revealed within as well as without. As a result, we're going through deep initiation individually and in mass. Sometimes we can feel isolated in this process and lose perspective as to our place in the larger scheme of things. You're not alone. We're in this together. Many of us sense that something monumental is going to take place in our lifetimes, that we came to make a difference. Because of the increased frequencies, we now have the opportunity to turn these powerful currents into tools of healing and evolution rather than suffering and denial. Let's talk a little bit about the dark night of the soul, initiation, and evolution of consciousness. After a long, hot hike in the woods, my old teacher handed me a cup full of water. It was murky. He dipped it from a stagnant part of the stream. I looked at it and back up to him questioningly. Would you drink of that water? He asked. I took a sniff. It smelled of dead fish and swamp. There were even green, slimy things floating on the top. Uh, I would rather not, I finally responded, not wanting to refuse his offering or appear disrespectful. This is the only cup we have, he went on. I'd not brought a cup with us. It was indeed the only one. Yes, it's already full of water. Yeah, I see that, I agreed, looking down into the green, gray, foul smelling sludge of particulate matter. You'll have to drink eventually. Yes, I suppose I will, I responded, wondering how long he intended for this particular educational trip into the woods to last, fearing it would be much longer than I had anticipated. He fell silent, went over to a tree, sat down, leaned his back up against it, and appeared to go to sleep. I sat there holding the tin cup of nasty water, obsessing over thirst, while the crystal clear stream continued to gurgle past, just a few scant feet away. On our prior trips to the woods, he had taught me that if I drank out of the slow moving portion of the stream, it might make me sick. But if I drank from the rapids, the water is still alive, as he called it, and would not make me ill. As I sat watching the old man snooze, my mind wandered to how his wife would always instruct me to go outside each morning with a bucket of drinking water from the night before and offer it to the plants and trees. She said they would appreciate it, but it was dead to us. She would then send me to gather more from the rapidly moving sunlit portion of the stream. I was getting increasingly thirsty sitting there contemplating the foul water in the cup when suddenly the lights came on. It comes to those who wait. I got up and gave the stream gratitude for the water as my teacher had shown me on prior trips. I approached a tree some distance from the stream Thanking the water for its teaching, I released it and blessed it to sustain the tree and poured it into the tree's base. I then went to bright sunlit portion of the stream, gave it an offering of tobacco from my medicine pouch, rinsed and refilled the cup from the rapids. Very good, Wiyaka. It's important to honor the empty. You cannot fill a cup that's already overflowing. He suddenly spoke from directly behind me, causing me to nearly jump out of my skin. As usual, I'd not heard the old Lakota approach. Saying no more, he turned and walked straight, silently back down the path towards the reservation. I obediently followed, close behind. One of life's little ironies is that to create, one must let go in gratitude and undergo the destruction of what was. This is different concept to grasp, much less accept in a culture that honors acquisition and accumulation, avoiding destruction and loss at all costs. Yet is the very unwillingness to let go, to giving back, that's created the massive imbalances resulting in violent correction we're experiencing on many levels. The practice of building without dismantling is not found in nature. Everything has its season, one for planting, for growth, one to harvest, one for destruction, and one for empty. Destruction breaks things down to its constituent parts to be repurposed for new creation, free of the influence of the old form. Destruction provides the fertile loam for next year's fresh planting and new growth. Note to the wise: if you don't like the harvest, become more conscious in your intent. Fully cooperate with dismantling process and plant accordingly next spring. Another thing not found in nature is taking without giving back an equal measure. Even our bodies take in oxygen, and we give back carbon dioxide to the total synergistic exchange with the plants and trees. If we're to evolve, we must undergo destructuring on many levels. Some old structures run so deep as to have been passed down through our very DNA. Yet, during these upcoming high frequency times, even DNA influences can evolve. Epigenetics allows us to restructure accordingly as we shift and change through the evolutionary process. One form of destructuring is the ancient practice of the shamanic initiation, found in one form or another in every culture. Vision quest, sun dance, being buried in the ground up to one's neck and left overnight, a long, rigorous fast are some of many examples. While the practices vary greatly from culture to culture, this initiation is the process of intentionally applying the great pressure to the initiate until they shatter, releasing all that no longer serves and making new self perceptions, concepts, understandings, and realities. Shamanic initiations are designed to remove old restrictions, leaving room for spiritual experiences and information available to those remaining subject to the common denominator perceptions and beliefs. Some initiations, such as shamanic ones, are ceremonially imposed, while others are spontaneous. Trauma and upheaval can serve us as set us free should we choose to embrace the changes rather than fight them. The shattering of the perceived self enables one to grow beyond their limitations and that of their culture, embracing deeper truths and wisdom, resulting in evolution of consciousness. The shamanic initiation is, in effect, actively engaging the destruction cycle and enabling us to grow. Yet one need not be engaged in a shamanic practice or even know of its existence to experience initiation. Any event that is so intense as to shatter our concept of ourselves and our reality provides just such an evolutionary opportunity. Many undergo an illness or accident only to come out the other side forever changed. And how we are changed, for better or worse, once again, totally depends on our relationship to the experience and willingness to let go. When I return from this upcoming short break, we'll go deeper into how this shamanic initiation, or not even a shamanic initiation, how the trials and tribulations of life When used to our advantage, can help us evolve beyond what we thought was possible, can help us become more rather than less. But first, we have to become less before we can become more. Yet another paradox. So, once again, this is Mission Evolution, missionevolution.org. If you'd like to enjoy our past archived episodes, you can find it on that website. If you want to find out more about me, Gwilda Wiyaka, you can find it at findyourpathhome.com. Have you ever wondered why the reality you're experiencing at this time seems like it belongs to someone else? That it's absolutely not what you had in mind? This is Mission Evolution, missionevolution.org. We're going to continue our study of evolution, frequency, and the dark night of the soul. We were talking about experiences that can actually cause an initiation, even whether they're ceremonially imposed or if they're spontaneous and part of our everyday day to day life. These experiences are often referred to as initiatory and may vary from near death experience to shattering divorce. However, the key on how traumatic they prove to be is in our willingness to accept them in gratitude. Gratitude is huge, as you'll find out. The dark night of the soul, a term coined by Spanish monk St. John of the Cross, based on his own mystical experience, is a process of shattering and letting go during initiatory experience. The dark night of the soul is a process having everything shatter and disintegrate, leaving us adrift alone in the empty before the new comes forth. Much like massive destruction followed by the silent Arctic night, the dark night of the soul, while traumatic, is also very cleansing, sweeping away all that was before, going into a silent point of silent darkness. The degree we cling to what was, be they relationships, personal possessions, concepts, lifestyles, identities, dictates the degree we suffer while passing through the dark night. Some never really make it through the shattering and become mere shadows of their potential, hiding in the dark corners of their minds, licking the wounds of their perceived losses. These unfortunate souls never move beyond the loss through the empty to embrace the new opportunities. Initiations and dark nights of the soul are natural cycles found in all aspects of nature, including the human ones. Unfortunately, our culture doesn't have many guidelines for understanding, much less graceful participation in either. Initiates are left floundering and terrified, with no concept of what's happening or the hidden gifts and potentials therein. They instead focus all their energy floundering around, attempting to rebuild what was lost, to no avail. Sound familiar? Sounds like we're in the middle of a collective dark night of the soul. Spontaneous initiations can also be set into motion through the conscious and unconscious intent of the individuals. Personal initiation is a powerful force and plays a large role in the occurrence of initiations and dark nights. If a person strongly intends to build or create something, they're often and unwittingly blindsided by the destruction of the old required to meet their intent. Rather than recognize it was their very wishes and intentions that necessitated and brought about the destruction, the tendency is to go into victim. Why is this happening to me? Then they are abort the process rather than recognize the upheaval as part of the path to their desires. They end up with a partially destroyed existence coupled with a partially constructed new one. This is cumbersome, difficult to manage, and not only efficient, not overly efficient, as they're operating with split intentions and energies. Being conscious of our intent and trusting that the events following the implementation of a powerful intent are the ways to facilitate this creation. Being grateful for all things, trusting everything is there as a part of the process, greatly enhances our ability to accept and utilize them. Otherwise, the tendency is to judge them out of hand, throw our hands up in despair, giving up 5 minutes before the miracle, if you will. Initiations and dark nights are also cyclic events in many cultures, such as the Celtic, Siberian, Tibetan, and Native American. Shamanic societies across the globe honor the destruction cycle followed by the empty. This part of the cycle is often celebrated during the winter solstice, the darkest day of the year, when last year's growth is buried under snow, being dismantled to compost and create the loam for next year's budding and growth. By taking action in the season that supports it, our process is greatly enhanced. In addition, there are cycles within cycles, such as day and night, the seasons, the ages, that coexist. These cycles are present in all things at all times. Expansion and contraction always coexist with the larger overlording cycles. We take our first breath at birth and our last upon death, but we fill and empty our lungs moment by moment throughout our lifetimes, taking in and releasing, expanding and contracting, filling and emptying. Every year has winter, spring, summer, and fall, with each season consisting of multiple sunrises and sunsets, many births and deaths, many beginnings and endings, and much give and take. We can initiate any part of this cycle at any time through the use of ceremony and conscious intention. This is a good thing, as it would be unfortunate to have to wait for spring or sunrise to begin all of our new projects. There are many powerful yet simple ceremonies that facilitate cooperation with natural cycles at the time of day, year, or age to support our intent. Some of these ceremonies have been or will be covered in further episodes that we have together. But for now, it's important that we're able to draw on these processes. What is needed on our part is mindful intention and honoring of the cycles, accepting all the while avoiding none. So, what does all this talk of cycles have to do with shamanic initiation and the dark night of the soul? For that matter, why are we talking about initiation and dark night in the first place? Just as there are similar cycles within the overlording ones, we are not just moving from night to day and one season to the next, but also from one age to another at any given time. Moving from one age to the next is a slow process, spanning a long period of time and heretofore virtually unnoticed by many. However, we're currently reaching the tipping point between the energies being supported by the Piscean age and that of the Aquarian. The old way of life is disintegrating into its constituent parts in preparation to reform a new one. At this time, we are in effect undergoing a spontaneous shamanic initiation and the resulting dark night of the soul across the entire planet as one age gives way to the next. Old realities are shattering, granting an opportunity to rapidly evolve on many levels. This evolution of consciousness will support new thought, increased creativity, ultimate mobility, and synergistic way of life. The process does not require our willing participation as individuals and as cultures. We must willingly let go of who we thought we were and how we viewed reality to evolve to our potential at this time. It's now time to give gratitude for what is passing, let go, and become empty before embracing the new. Yet many of us are clinging to our old way of life, tenaciously holding on to a cup full of foul, undrinkable water and suffering greatly as a result. All the while whining, I just want to go back to normal. The old normal's gone. The new one is yet unformed. The next season is upon us. We must now embrace the empty, honor the dark, the place between breaths, so we can move forward on the other side, unencumbered by what no longer serves. The harmonics have changed. The symphony ended. As the last notes fade, let silence prevail. Sit quietly in the silent darkness before the new dawn and the clarion call of spring. We are indeed living in unprecedented times. People thought the end of the world, 12/21/12, was just going to be a flash in the pan, just boom, and we're gone. But actually, these cycles take a long time. It can be, depending on where we are in the galaxy, a generation for the transition to happen. And they can slide by in an unknown way. They can slip upon us, slowly change until we wake up and look back at the depression and go, that couldn't happen now, could it? As we're embracing these times of destruction, it's so important to hold on to the fact that we are indeed letting go of an old way that's no longer serving, that's disintegrating, staying in the empty until we can embrace the new. However, we are participants. We can influence in our personal lives what the new looks like. What will we create with tomorrow? I'm excited to see. I hope you are. Mission Evolution Radio TV show was designed to bring together people of knowledge and service to the world to help us through these transitional times. It's my hope that through these episodes, with these wonderful guests that come on, that we can aid each other in moving through this transition with grace, ease, gratitude, and beauty. It is a time of change, but we can embrace that change. Unfortunately, we are out of time. Thank you so much for sharing the hour with me and exploring the wonderful world of frequency, transmutation, and evolution. To find out more about me, where you can find my classes, books, sessions, and teachings, visit findyourpathhome.com. This has been Mission Evolution with Gwilda Wiyaka. For more information or to enjoy past archive episodes, visit www.missionevolution.org. But please be sure to join me right here next time, as I'll have wonderful guests to bring information, resources, and support to an evolving world.